The podcast is back. Welcome to Tasser Guide Service. Join along as my guests and I dive into our outdoor adventures, share some laughs, and of course a few beers. A new episode will be released every other Friday at 5 a.m. I hope you guys have as much fun watching as we did making it. All right, guys, let's get started a little bit. Welcome back to Tasser Guide Service podcast. I want to start out talking about my weeks. The last 2 weeks have just been busier than crap. Had a nice guide trip last week. Took a father-son out. The son bought a trip for his dad for his birthday, so that was awesome. He got on a nice little flathead, the biggest he's ever caught, so that was exciting. We're doing a podcast tonight. I had about 3 hours of sleep last night. Get up tomorrow, go to work, and then I got to get ready for my first kids fishing tournament Saturday. Scranton, Iowa. This will be after the fact. The tournament will already be over by the time the podcast is out, but in Scranton, Iowa, we already have 90 kids pre-registered to fish a pond that's maybe 2 acres. Maybe. It's going to be combat fishing.
It'll be awesome.
You're going to see 6-year-olds crying. It's going to be awesome. But I just want to kind of give a shout out to some of my sponsors, some guys that have helped out these tournaments. Whisker Secret Tackles stepped up. They sent a crap load of stuff. JB's Fish Sauce sent 3 of their most favorite scents, the garlic, the coffee, and the anise. So we got 50 different samples of that to hand out to the kids. Drastic Plastics and Scott Monroe sent, 8 pounds of plastics. Just random assortment of plastics that I got a bag after tonight. Those are the main 3 for this tournament, so thank you guys very much. Couldn't do it without you. The kids are going to love it. The next week, I got a guide trip Tuesday, Friday, and then I got an all-nighter Saturday. And then I got another kids fishing trip Sunday on Lake Landon, which is just west of my hometown. The owners lost their son a few years back, so they do this tournament in memory of them and have a bunch of kids come out. So there'll probably be another 50 or so kids that come out and fish that. And anything I have left over from the Scranton tournament is going to transfer over to that. But I also have a guy out of Connecticut named Alex Lawrence, and he hand paints lures. So he's going to send 30 assortment of topwater rattle traps and whatever he's got. He's sending 30 crankbaits to hand out the 11th. And also Brandon Badgett Bait Company. He's going to send a couple pounds of his catfish hamburger bait. So we're going to use that at the tournament, which you guys have all fished the Lake Landon, or it used to be Flax. It's got some monster channel cat in it. So I'm kind of excited to see what that hamburger bait will do. So that's
just the Scranton pond you along. That's all you?
No, I am not. I'm just, they asked me to be like a speaker and kind of start the thing off because they couldn't find anybody else at all. So
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So it'll be a good time. So let's just kind of go around. We'll start with the veteran. He's been on here 2 or 3 times already.
3rd time. I don't think the views are too great on those, though.
Well, it's just a coincidence, I'm sure.
Just a coincidence.
Introduce yourself. Tell us what you know.
Okay, my name's Andy Carmen from the area.
From way back.
Yep, yes. Excited to be on tonight. Listen to you guys, you 3. I'm just kind of here to watch you guys, so.
I'm just here to navigate. We're going to let the walleye aficionados take control, because I don't know shit about walleye. That's a scientific fact.
I just ride coattails, so that's what it is.
That's all it is.
I just get lucky. You gotta put the time in.
That's exactly right. Anytime you're chasing a predator, you got to put yourself in the right spot at the right time, and the only way to do that is to fish. So, Bobby, introduce yourself. Kind of tell us what you got.
Bob Fredrickson, live in Jefferson here.
Come up that way a little bit. We want to hear all the wisdom coming out.
Yeah. My main hobby is fishing. That's why I'm here.
Bob, you're what? Probably 3-4 years younger than me. So growing up, he was always a younger kid that I looked up to because you're always an outdoors guy, and you're always very successful at what you do because you're passionate about it, and you like live on the river. Every time I'd see it be when we're fishing.
Right.
So I always kind of looked up to you and knew that you were one of the guys that that would be out there when I was out there. So
Got that from my dad. Wasn't for that, I wouldn't be there.
it's amazing how that stuff passes down and sticks with you.
Yep.
You know, some guys pass down bad habits to their kids, and you're lucky enough that they pass down fishing. PJ, what you got?
PJ Russell. I love to fish. That's all I do. I do a lot of work. I love fishing.
Talk about your new boat. You got a new baby. Was it last year?
Yeah, it was last year. I think it finally showed up in spring with a 22 Lumacraft T Pro. I think it's the last year they made them.
It's like a classic car. Just
Yeah.
gonna get more and more valuable as the time goes on.
I hope so. It's pretty fun.
I bet.
Yeah.
It's nice looking. I drive by your house all the time, kind of on my way to and from jobs. So I oogle it every time I drive by.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sharp looking rig.
Sweet. The matte black motor case looks pretty good too. I think it
Yeah.
sets it off a little bit. It's a fishing machine.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that. We're gonna just pretend Andy's not here for most of this because
Thank you.
we're gonna dive into walleye. PJ, every time I've fished with you, it seems like I'm struggling. Ice fishing mainly is when I've met up with you, and I'm at a lake that you know very well, and I know very little about. So I'm out there struggling, and I meet up with you, and you put me on fish every single time. So it's pretty awesome.
That place is pretty difficult.
It can be. There's so many structures that are so similar that, you know, it could be a kind of a crapshoot unless you really have the nuances dialed in.
I think a few times I got lucky on finding stuff like that too.
It's the work. You gotta put in
Yeah,
the time.
yeah,
It all boils down to the time, the work.
it really does.
It does, and keeping that information once you have it, you know,
Right.
not just
Yeah.
like saying, "Oh, I was a lucky day." You know, why was I successful
Yep.
today
Yeah.
versus the last 27 times?
Yeah,
And then
you
you
can't
start-
give up.
It's definitely defeated me plenty of times too.
But worst comes to worst, you're fishing. So, damn it. I'm not a good fisherman today. So, what are some keys? Let's just go into. You guys are very skilled and knowledgeable about walleye just because of the time you put in. What are some keys that maybe some guys overlook that would maybe help them put a few more walleye on the line?
What are we talking about? Lakes? Ice
And
fishing?
whatever you want to talk about. Let's dive into it. We got time. We
He's
got
more
beer.
He's the lake guy.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
when it comes to ice fishing in the lake, I'd say daytime, you get pretty lucky if you catch something, but night, you got a chance something's coming around. Yeah.
It's your morning and evening.
Yeah, of
Your
course.
sunrise, sunset.
Yeah.
Like, well, ice fishing especially.
Yeah.
For walleye. Because I think in the winter, they're kind of saving their energy, you know, and then they got to feed and they can use their sight with low visibility.
Take
Go on the
advantage of it.
Prowl, and then if you find them during the day, you're lucky.
They just happen to swim by and we're a little bit hungry.
Or if you find where they're sitting.
Yeah.
Got something in front of their face, they're going to eat. But other than that, get ready. There's only about a half hour, it seems like, in the evening and
Yeah.
the morning. So,
Yeah.
So just like flathead fishing, when you get your opportunity, don't screw it up.
yeah.
Gotta be there.
You're
Don't
not.
miss it.
Yeah.
I've never missed a fish ever.
No, never. Why I call you Walleye Bob.
Yeah.
So tell us more about river walleye.
I've walked a lot, before Google Earth, Google Maps,
Yeah,
you just got to put in the time and figure it out for yourself.
yeah.
And I love catching walleye, but finding a new spot is probably the best.
I save a lot of miles by looking at Google Earth, but
Right.
still at Google Earth, if you're looking at an area, and you send me a lot of pictures off there, you're like, what about this spot? And I like put X's where I would set up first, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but when they work, that's pretty badass.
Right.
Well, it's so easy. I'm just sitting there at night, and my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm looking at a map, checking out spots."
I'm
Like,
gonna send Ryan some messages.
yeah.
We're gonna
Well, then
get
we're
it
going
figured
with Bob
out.
out of the, wherever on the river, and he's like, "Oh, yep, yeah, I floated this in '96. Oh, I remember this part, and oh yeah, I walked up in that, and 2001 or whatever."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, the time.
Yeah, he is good with dates.
Yeah.
Like years. Yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah. Last year.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
That tree was standing the last time I was there.
Well, I can remember late teens, early 20s, and I'm sitting around one day and I thought, you know what, I'm going to drive up north on the Raccoon River. Because I hadn't been much out of Greene County, basically,
Yeah.
And I went clear up past Sac City, and it gets pretty narrow, and I don't know, I'm sure there's some fish in there. But basically, if you go west, then north, you're going to hit every gravel road, every
Yeah.
whatever.
That's the great thing about Iowa. Every mile by mile, there's usually a road.
Oh,
You know.
checkerboard, just the spots and stuff, you know, I've been around it for a while and put it together slowly. It doesn't come overnight.
No, I could take any of us to a spot that you've never been at, and until you get the little nuances, just being at that spot is not going to guarantee you even halfway catching a fish.
Right.
Once you get there, you got to be able to put A and B together. You know, got to read the water a little bit. You got to read the conditions. What are they going to do when the water's rising? What are they going to do when it's falling?
Yep.
You know, when the bait fish are pooled up or versus scattered out, you know, how's that going to change their habits? So it takes time.
But you got to dial it enough, Bob, that you're making your own swim baits, right? Your own baits.
No, I buy
Your
my
own jig
swim
heads.
baits, but I buy my jig heads. And like last fall, the Des Moines River was so low that I was using 1/8 ounce, but I started using 10 instead of lead because it's a third less weight per volume.
Yeah,
Oh.
making your own jig heads.
Yeah,
Yep.
make my
Right
own
on.
heads. So therefore, you got the same profile, but you got less weight on there.
So it's going to fall slower and
Yep.
react to the current a little bit different. If you don't try it, how you going to know?
Right.
You know, it could have been a pile of garbage.
And
You know,
I've
you-
tried to reinvent the wheel sometimes, and it don't work, but you just never know unless you.
And it's fun when you make your own jigs or you find your own spot, or when it becomes successful, you're like, hell yeah, it makes that beer taste a little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
I've been on the river enough, you know, and I've seen new people. The bigger river to the east, I guess, you'll see some people you don't know there. And I seen a kid one day, he's probably in his early 20s, and he looked like he was just fishing for the topwater bass. He's burning her in, you know.
Burning her in.
And I thought, you know, I've seen him struggle long enough. Everybody else is basically catching fish here.
Yeah,
And I went over and helped him, and he ended up catching an 8-pound walleye.
hell yes.
And he's reeling it in. He was worse than Andy. He's just like,
That's saying something.
oh man, what do I do? I'm like, it's fine. Just take
Yeah,
your time.
just-
take your time.
Enjoy it.
He
Yes.
got it in.
Yeah.
He was tickled.
Yeah, the chance of him catching another eight pound or walleye anytime soon is going to be
It's
Son
kind of
of
odd
mine.
because this has been pushing 10 years, and I haven't seen the guy or the kid, whatever. He's a guy now, but
Well,
I haven't seen him since.
he finished on top. He never had to fish again.
He
already-
retired
Yeah,
with the belt.
yeah. On to the next one. Yeah, he's already conquered it.
He's golfing now.
Jeez. Yeah, he never conquered golf. I hit one good shot, and I'm like, yes.
It'll bring you
And
back.
End up shooting a 6 on that hole.
You get one drive right down the pipe.
Yeah, and then waste it.
Yeah.
Just waste it. Yeah, that's my problem. If I've got a birdie putt, I'm gonna bogey it every time. Every freaking time. So you're missing golf league tonight for a podcast.
Yes,
That's
and I'm
awesome.
glad to be here. Yeah, truly.
It's so humid outside. It'd have been a rough one.
I think it was, last ice fishing season is when I met Andy for the first time.
He kind of introduced himself. It's probably been a year and a half ago, wasn't it, Andy?
Okay.
Since you've been back.
Oh,
Because you grew up here,
yeah, I'm from here.
and then you went and threw discus or shot, which
Both.
was both
Yep.
for the University of Iowa.
Yep.
And then came on home. Now you're a track coach. You coach
Yep.
the throwers.
Help out with Green County track. Fished growing up, but then the last 18 months really got back into it. You know, buddy's like, hey, let's go ice fishing. Sounds like a waste of time, but I fell back in love, and here I am.
Yes.
And that's when I got some of your guys' info from one of my relatives and annoy the crap out of you now. I'm good at it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's a good time.
It's entertaining, so.
It's
yeah.
usually, well, depends on the week. Sometimes it's once a week. Sometimes it's once an hour. Depending on what season it is.
Yeah.
No,
It
but
depends if he's heading there.
I can always talk fishing.
Yeah.
You know, always talk fishing. Sometimes I can't answer you back right away because I'm busy, but, you know, I usually try to get back to you. But I just love talking fishing. It doesn't matter who it's to. And I can lie to you. You don't even know the difference.
I believe everything you say. I even gave you some options the other day. Give me one for it.
And that's his best thing. It's like 20 questions because it'll start out with one question, and then it'll lead to a couple more, and then it'll circle back. Are you sure?
Are you sure?
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Are you
Or
sure?
which one would it be?
Yeah.
Oh, why don't you just try sitting on the couch and see how it goes?
Yeah. So we got to edit out all the technical difficulties and the overheating issues. Other than that, we're doing good.
All the beer sips.
No, they
None of
stay
those?
in.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm hoping Bush Light picks me up as a sponsor one of these days.
Just perfect.
They need to put a flathead on the can.
Yes, they do.
So they got what, the bass, the walleye, trout now.
Yeah.
So we were talking about lake fishing earlier for flathead.
Yes.
And I went out 12, 13 years ago.
There
with-
I was.
With a buddy. Wasn't actually on the boat with them, but they caught a nice, I don't know, 45-pound flathead. Is Braden Sheriff.
That lake that we were talking about?
Nope,
Oh.
different lake.
Okay.
You know what? I don't know where I was going with all that. I just edited all that out. What I was saying was he's sponsored by Bush Light.
Brandon is?
Yeah.
For what?
I don't know, drinking it all the time.
I
He's
mean-
in the NFL,
I know, but NFL individuals get beer sponsors?
I guess.
Really?
He gets stuff all the time.
That's cool.
Brandon, hook me up, brother. Heck yeah,
That is the beer to have.
it is. And we got jerky.
Yeah.
PJ made a couple different recipes of jerky today, some deer jerky. They're both amazing.
Yeah, one's a day old, one's fresh.
So if you hear us chewing, it's just jerky. Don't worry about it.
Can't help
It's
it.
as good as it sounds.
Yeah. I got a buddy that gets a deer for me and I just turn it all into jerky.
Everybody needs buddies like that.
Oh yeah. It's great.
River versus lake. Would you rather river fish or lake fish? And is it dependent on certain species? Is it dependent on time of year? You can go anywhere you want with this. Let's just talk about river fishing versus lake fishing.
I love river fishing, and especially in April, because that's when I get some time off. I'm heading somewhere. It could be South Dakota, Wisconsin, or it could be both.
You go walleye?
Yeah,
You're a
heading for
walleye guy.
fishing. Yes, for
Do you
sure.
fish for anything else really? Or
I don't mind catching crappie as long
Yeah.
as they're over 12 inches.
That's hard to come by.
yeah.
And
yeah.
I feel like I've done pretty good this year.
Yeah, I don't mind
This
catching
spring.
flathead as long as they're
Yeah.
over 60.
Yeah.
Dreaming and dreaming.
Yeah. Well, you get those crappies, like you say, or cookie cutters. I mean, they're more of a bait fish or nuisance than anything.
They need cleaned out in certain areas when they get like that, for
Yeah.
sure. So what about you, Andy? Lake or river?
I just think lakes are so hard to fish unless you really know them or you live on them, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to hit up the river. I feel like I can read a little bit better, but I still don't know anything, so...
I definitely agree with that. There's a lot more patterns that are easily picked up on rivers and flowing water. The movement of water acts the same in every location. You know, when it bounces off stuff, it'll dig it out.
But I feel like if you grew up on a lake, like some of my friends, they'll just say, "Oh, it's way better, it's the best," and that's all they know.
That's all they know.
Okay, and that's the only lake they know. Maybe.
And lakes change a lot less than rivers do. If you kind of have a honey hole on a lake, it's going to be more prolonged than a honey hole on a river because you get one flood and the river completely changes the way it fishes. I can see both sides of it for sure. What
But I
about you,
feel-
Bob?
I'm a river guy, 100%. And fish for the walleye the most, but you can still catch them all year long out of a river, even ice fishing it. But
That's one thing I've never had the balls to do is ice fish the river. I've speared on the river, I guess, a few times, speared some carp and stuff, but
Yep.
I've never really ice fished it.
Usually the hardest time is the middle of summer. You can always find a pattern, it seems like. The hotter the water, the more aggressive.
Do you think a lot of the walleye push up into the reservoirs when it gets hot and low, like the wipers do, and a lot of the fish do?
Well, like, are you talking like Sailorville
Yeah, just
Yep.
some of the reservoirs that are local rivers, kind
or
of.
drop back, you mean? They could. I don't know for sure.
Because when that water gets so low, pound and a half walleye is not going to hang out in a 40-foot hole, or the deepest water,
Right.
because that's where your predators are going to eat them.
Yep.
So
More so dams with the water where it's flowing over, creates oxygen, you'll find them there.
That's true.
Yep.
Fresh
Yep.
air.
your colder water, you look for warmer spots, and
Yep.
are going to be the same year after year. I would think that spring and fall time is a little bit more predictable
Right.
than the rest of the year, for
Yep.
sure.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, depending on water conditions.
Yeah,
and
water
stuff, I
conditions,
guess,
Water
yeah.
conditions, yep. You know when it's right and the
Yeah.
right time of the year. If it's just perfect, it's really good around here. You don't even have to make a trip anywhere.
Yeah.
But
And
those
that's
conditions
nice,
to all
yeah.
come together, good luck.
Yeah.
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 You might get, actually, spring and fall combined, you might get a week or two a year, if that.
That's a good year. Yeah,
Right.
that's a good
So,
year.
Otherwise, you're just kind of fishing the outlying days or parts of the river, otherwise.
Yeah,
It's just,
just to be fishing.
right.
Or you get in your car and you go somewhere else.
Yep.
That's the problem with Iowa fishing is, we're not a destination fishery anywhere. You even go up to the Great Lakes and you could have great days, but it's the consistency of it's pretty damn tough.
Right.
Wisconsin or Minnesota or South Dakota, you don't have to drive very far to be consistent around there.
Right.
There's so many more options.
It's not like it used to be around here.
No, and a lot of people glorify the past, but these last 3-4 years have just been brutal on fish and meat. Definitely both of us.
Tough.
It's tough, but when everything comes together and the time is right, it's great.
And it makes it that much sweeter.
Yeah.
It makes it more of a memory than a trip, unless you miss them on any.
Hey, you put out some videos. You gotta make some of us guys feel better. I get it. You ever just go out there and fake a miss? Miss. Thanks.
No, I missed my fair share for sure, but that happens. Predator fish are tough to catch. You got to make sure everything's done right. If you mess one little thing up, that's all it takes. And some fish are just meant to be caught. You can do everything wrong and still get them in, and then you do everything right and never see the fish. So,
You be throwing out a cast, trying to do your thing, Then you're done with your cast, you're just burn reeling it in. Oh, shit.
it's just got to hit at my feet.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I've been doing it wrong.
Let me rethink my whole life here for a second. Yeah, I don't have the nuance to be a walleye fisherman because I've never taken the time to do it. If I'm river fishing, it's got whiskers. I'm chasing whiskers, or in the spring and stuff. Wipers, I try to chase wipers and white bass a little bit, but I just enjoy the slow-paced, relaxed atmosphere of catfishing. That's just kind of who I am. I'm jealous of walleye guys because there's a lot of skill, like in presentation, and like you said, drop rates and knowing where in that current seam they're going to be sitting. There's a lot of little nuances that make a huge difference to be a walleye fisherman.
Oh, for sure.
I think with walleyes, it's a lot of their lateral line, and you can find a bait that, like crankbaits, are just aggressive. But those aren't the best to get it down to the water depth where they're at, or the current seam, or all that. But if you can find a bait that still undulates and disperses water at the same time, and like a jig,
Yeah.
and if it just gets them fired up, you basically piss them off when it hits that lateral line, and you're put in front of them and can't help it.
It's just a reaction bite. That's and that's the same thing with, I bring everything back to flathead because that's what I don't know the best. But if you can piss a flathead off, you got him.
Right.
He could literally be sitting from me to PJ away for a half hour and not even give a shit. But if you can donk him on the head and get him fired up, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
I don't know how many bites I've gotten in the first 5 minutes. You cast it in and it's close enough to piss him off, he's gonna hit. Or you cast in and it's 5 feet away and they're there. I mean, especially now when the water's low. There's only so many places them big bastards can hide.
Right.
They're there. And you can sit there all night and not get a bite.
How many times have you casted out a bait flathead fishing and went to do something, grab a beer, whatever, anything, and within the first minute you get a run? Have you had that?
That was the other night. It casted in, it was my first guide trip of the year. It casted in, I didn't even get a chance to put the second bait out. And it just went, boom. I'm like, oh. And he set the hook and it was a good one. I saw the tail and it was a 40 plus. And then it got in the woods. He kind of let the fish dictate the fight. Got in the wood and we never got him in. But yeah, that was the first 10 minutes of the guide trip. I was thinking, yeah.
It's gonna be a good night.
And they had 7 shots and we didn't get a single fish to the boat. So
I remember a long time ago I was on the river just over here and cast it out. I think I was probably using a green sunfish or whatever.
yeah.
And so I cast her out and set it down on my lawn chair, and I was going to grab a Y stick or whatever, and I hear something, and I look behind me, and it wasn't even 30 seconds. That rod was flying in the air.
You son of a bitch.
I go grab it out of the water, pick it up and like sitting there holding it, you know, just waiting like you
Yeah.
usually do.
Yeah.
Okay, reel in tight, nothing there, pull a little more. Of course, it's gone.
Yeah.
The bait's gone.
Yeah,
That's
just
how that
just the
works.
movement of that slack, and that's what's tough guiding out of my boat because it's big and it's wide. So when you get a bite and you got people that are not flathead savvy or really fishing savvy as much, and they jump up and the boat shifts. I don't know how many times I've had flathead drop it just because that sudden movement of the tip of that rod changed the pressure and it just scared the shit out of them. So they're gone. So I'm guessing that's the same thing when the pole flies through the air. He's like, "What the hell is that?"
What's going on here?
Yeah. So low and slow is what I always try to portray to everybody on the boat. Just breathe. It's gonna be there unless you scare it away. You know, if a good one starts running, he's gonna take it home.
So do you use bait casters then?
Yeah. I use Akuma cold waters is what I run.
And do you set your clicker right?
If I'm fishing daytime spots where I'm right in the shit,
Right.
I don't set my clicker.
Yep.
But at nighttime, I always set the clicker. Yeah.
But like, so when you get the clickers going off, you gotta run. This is what I do. I pick it up. I turn the clicker off, but it's free-spooled, and I got my thumb on it so I can feel it running. And like the least resistance possible, like you're saying. Basically, I don't know, getting ready, pointed almost
Yeah,
straight
just
at the
lead
line.
him like he's a dog on a leash.
And then once it's engaged, that's when I go.
When I'm on all my guide trips are fishing off the back of my boat. I got 6 rod holders on the back of my 18-footer. First thing I do, I just flip it in gear and let the flathead load it up. I said, you're not allowed to touch that rod until the 4th eye is starting to bow. Because even a 10-pounder, you know, if he's loading that rod up, it'll get that whisker seeker medium heavy. It'll load it up to the 4th eye, and then you can set the hook. Till then, don't touch the goddamn rod.
But you're not using circle hooks then?
No, I'm not.
What do you think about those?
I use them a lot of times for springtime channel cat when they're kind of finicky, and then I use them for blue cat. The rest of the time it's J hooks.
Yep.
Because flathead, you know, they don't hit it and run straight away. You know, especially the big ones, they'll hit it and kind of just take their time moseying on out because they got none to run from. They're the king of the forest, you know. So they just kind of strut their way on down river once they swallow your bait. So you got to be able to set the hook and cross their eyes a little bit.
Isn't it something to do with like the shape of their mouth and like you just said, whether they're gonna run with it or not, right?
It's kind of their attitude.
Yeah.
You know, I've had 15-pounders grab it and try to spool me, and I've had 40-pounders grab it and run like that. But most of the time, if it's a fish that's 20, 25 pounds or bigger, it'll hit it, and then it's in no hurry to go anywhere. It's already succeeded. It's won the war. It's already got the prey in his mouth. So they're in no hurry to go anywhere. So a lot of times you're running the clicker, you'll get a zzz, and they'll just go zzz, 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 zzz. Unless, you know, there's another fish around, then, you know, they're scared something's going to take it. So then they just haul ass and get out of there. So every situation's different, and I think it has a lot to do with current.
Yep.
And I think it has a lot to do with other fish present. You
So
know,
how you setting the hook when it just gets a zip and then just
you
kind
let
of
him load
walks
it up.
off?
You let him do his thing.
Load it up. You mean all
Yeah.
the way?
The 4th eye's got to be bent before I set the hook.
So after you take the clicker, soon the clicker's on.
As soon as the clicker starts rolling, I flip my lever forward to stop any line coming out. Then I click my clicker off, and as soon as that rod, and I'm kneeling right by the rod, as soon as that rod goes whoop, then I set the hook.
So you let it load up.
I let it load up.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because that change of tip pressure, I've seen so many flathead drop it.
Yep.
Well, I would say like the other day.
But bank fishing's a different
Okay.
deal.
And
Yeah.
my clicker's
Yeah.
pretty loose, I guess, for the reel I'm using.
Yeah.
And I usually have it, if I'm on a sandbar, I use 2 Y6 so it's parallel.
Okay.
So the line's like going straight
Yep.
or whatever instead of bigger angle.
Yeah. So your bait's not running your clicker all the time.
Yep. Yeah, and like I said, it's pretty easy to pull it too. So, I mean, least resistance possible is what I think until
Yes.
you're ready to swing.
On the boat, that's just not possible. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The way
Well,
the
you
way
know
it's
like
set up.
a million times more than I do. for
No,
fly fishing.
no, but I mean, any fish, they feel a change in pressure, and you know it's gonna freak them out a little
So
bit.
what do you do if you're on the bank then?
If I'm on the bank, it depends on how they hit. If it's one of those low rollers, the rod's in my hand. I just let him kind of pull it. You know, just like I said, leading the dog on the leash. You just let him go with him, and when he hits that line tight, then you hit him. So every situation is a little bit different.
But if it's if he's just taking it,
I'd throw the lever forward,
let him take it all the way down
Yep.
in your hands or
Yep.
or in the rod holder or whatever.
If they are running the mail and they're going as fast as they can, I don't bring it out of the rod holder until I set the hook.
So just
Yep.
let him
Yep,
take it off the clicker, let him load it up.
yep. And they're already hooked. They're already hooked by that time. Flathead are easy when they're pissed because they just go. When they're big or not as fired up, they can be tough.
Waiting game.
You just gotta outpatience them. And when you miss one of those that's just kind of zzz, 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 you back of your mind, you're like, that was my 50. I just missed him. That was
So
my 50.
After that initial pop, like you're talking, and then you're sitting there, you're waiting, you know, and it could be, how long have you waited? Like,
Half hour.
okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how long is that half hour in regards to reality?
Oh, yeah,
you know?
yeah. I waited 3
10
days.
minutes.
Yeah. But truthfully, after that initial pop, I don't think I've caught a fish over 10 minutes after that. I still wait
Right.
because I don't want to spook it because you know he's probably somewhere there.
Yep.
But I've had him come back within 10 minutes and pick it up and
Right.
go with it.
That's why I was thinking about 10 minutes, because I've had that, and you're just sitting there, you know, and then finally, I don't know, I just say 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
You're like, screw it, pull it tight,
Yeah, just give him a
drag
feel.
it.
Yeah,
No, all right, check the bait, rebait, whatever you gotta do.
yeah.
But that's not what happened last year when we went.
Because there was no where for him
Zinked
to
it.
swim.
And then 30 minutes later, like,
He already hit the other bank.
Yeah, exactly. You know where to go. Know
It's
where to
like
go.
underhand lob it so you don't get yourself snagged. And then the big old, oh, okay.
Yeah, he's already home.
Everybody's antennas are up. 10 minutes later, it's like, all right, whatever. And then half hour, what do you suppose half hour, 40
At
minutes?
least.
Well,
At
we
least.
better check your bait. So it's just that nice little pull. Oh, something's there. Something's there. Yep, and he had swallowed it by then, but
Yeah.
just cut the line, and like I told
Yeah.
Andy, you know, it lived. It was fine.
A lot of those big ones, you can actually reach down in their throat pretty easy and get the hook out, but
Reach your
Yeah.
hand clear in
Yeah.
there. Okay.
clear in there. And it when you hit kind of like this area, their muscles contract, so it scares the shit out of you. But you can usually get in there and just push the hook enough to turn it.
Yeah.
Then you can usually get it out. But at least I try to. You never know if they live. You don't know. You try to do your best for them. Who knows? Talk about technology. So when we first started, we're all roughly the same age. I'm the old guy here, but when we all started, you know, like a Vexlar for ice fishing was a big deal. You know, there's a lot of years I fished on a bucket just with a hope and a prayer that I was even within 30 feet of a fish. But then that first year I got that Vexlar, I was king shit. Yeah,
Probably an FLA.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, an FL8 or
Oh, they're great.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was made fishing so much more fun and productive because you're not sitting on dead ice for hours at a time. Going from technology of the FLA to either your Garmin or your Lowrance or whatever you got,
hmm
it's just night and day difference between the two.
It's almost like watching a fish aquarium. See the fish, their reaction, what they're doing, and the size. I mean, it's.
I
it's
think that's
something.
probably my funnest part is seeing how they react to a different presentation. You know, if it's moving or if it's just sitting on the bottom or just how the school kind of reacts. Because when you get in those big schools, you can definitely tell what motions do what to their senses.
Yeah, you can see that there's usually when there's one good sized fish, there's usually buddies with them, 3 or 4 others. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah, but only one gets the bait and then the others scatter.
And without that technology, you'd be like, oh, I
Yeah,
got
you
it.
never know.
I got it.
Never
Well, there was a bigger one right behind him.
Yeah.
Well, this
Yeah.
last year we were ice fishing on the lake down south.
Yeah.
And, so I'm using my Vex, and he's using the,
5 image.
you know, you got your
Yeah.
live image going. You're like, oh, you got one coming in. It's like, I don't have nothing on the screen.
All of a sudden, you got this red blob like that
Yeah.
come in.
I'm like, oh, Yeah, I do. You're right.
Yeah.
And so, whatever. And then he's like, oh, it left. I'm like, no, it's still here.
Yeah.
And then it leaves. And I'm like, we're in the same ice fishing
Yeah.
shack.
We're-
It's a big shack, but we're only like 10 feet apart.
If
Yeah.
that, yeah.
And
It was wicked.
it's so weird how you can have your puck right down, we're fishing, 10, 15 foot of water.
Yeah. It was.
And you can watch your bait. But then when I watch his live image, it's like it's almost a delay when you pop your bait.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But he's forecasting everything. And it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point where I don't even want to go ice fishing with him anymore.
I mean, the smell is bad enough. And you gotta add that.
I'm glad
No,
to say that.
that was a joke, but it just literally blew my mind.
Oh, I
And
get it.
I was actually using a Markham that's digital too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's instant. Your bait, you watch it, and then like with the live image, I've used that with him, and it's almost a little bit of just a pause.
Yeah. You pop it, then it comes up. I mean, you pop
But
it.
he's
it's-
forecasting everything that was going on in my hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be
That's
like, oh, you got one coming. He's like, oh, no, I don't. Oh, yeah, I do.
So you
Yeah.
can see how far to the side.
It depends on your depth.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes I can see, I don't know, 10 foot if you're in, I'd say probably like 12 foot of water. Then the deeper you go, the more you get to see.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is great. And then,
Do you have clarity issues like water? If really stained water, does it really make a difference? Or
no, not really. I know there is issues out there. I think I'm on my third update now. So like the whole
so
time-
as a company, they're getting ahead of it.
But even at the first, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then
Yeah.
it just seemed like I was scared to do the update. And then I would do it. Then it would even be better. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have did this a while ago.
Yeah.
So every time it comes out, I just do the update.
They got you hooked now.
Yeah. So
And I'm on the market. I haven't decided what I'm gonna get. I've got Garmin stuff on my boat, but I'm
Oh.
not too impressed with it. So I might do a little switching.
that's
Yeah.
the only reason why I went to live image is because that's what I have in my boat, hummingbird.
And what's
I-
Lowrance got? Active target or
active
live
target?
or
I
something?
don't know. I do know I've messed around with a live scope. I never came across it, and I went out ice fishing, and I had a buddy that was using it. He just took it out of the box and put it there, and there's
Yeah.
lines and everything. I'm like, oh, you don't want that. And I'm going through. It was very easy to use. So I was just like, yeah, this is awesome. And I was like, the clarity on live scope, I'd probably say is probably better than live image, but I just know every time I use my live image, it works every single time.
I've only had my boat out like 5 times this year, but twice already it said something about my transducer wasn't hooked up, or so I'd have to shut the whole system down, unhook everything, hook it back up, and then it'd work just fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And Spencer got all Garmin, well, had all Garmin stuff, and he's getting away from it because he's went through like 3 monitors. He went through 2 trolling motors already in the
Okay.
last 3-4 years. I don't know if it was something that changed over the years that their quality's kind of slipping, or
Yeah, I've been running Minn Kota quite a few years now, and
yeah, and that's what I've got too.
Hummingbird and Minn Kota, they're buddies.
Yeah, they talk.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
their technologies are growing together, and
I jump out on a lake, dial up the fish finder, everything I want to do, the trolling motor does. I mean, I communicate with this one back here, the trolling motor kicks out. does whatever
I need
want.
to learn technology because I river fish all the time.
Yeah.
You need to know depth. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and when I get
Is
out,
that easy?
it is. It is.
Yeah,
Where
that
is the sandbar drop off?
Yeah.
Where is that log located? You know, little shit like that. That's all you need.
Make sure you ask 3 times.
The third time doesn't hurt.
To this day, though, I guess if you have a trolling motor, that's great, but GPS is amazing. Knowing what you're fishing in a lake, knowing what's there,
Yeah.
it's the best.
You know, back in the day, Navionics was the shit. You know, that was my technological upgrade. Not only did I have a Vexlar, but I learned how to use Navionics. I was an ice fishing guru. You know, you got live scope, live imaging. It's crazy, the changes. I want to go out with you sometime and just watch your video game. Watch how you do that. Because like I said, I'm in the market, and I just haven't pinpointed what unit I want yet. Because I'm kind of a technological slow guy.
Well, the great thing
Not
about
good at all.
what's great about this is that, I mean, if it's new update, You turn it on, everything goes to auto if you want it to, and it works. I mean, just right out of the box.
Yeah, the less I gotta mess with, the less I screw up.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
I've had a few people in the boat, and I'm like, here, let me get this going for you. And they watch that, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can see my jig. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, look at all those fish. I'm like, yeah, try to catch them.
Yeah,
You
good
see
luck.
all these fish. They're not all going to bite.
That's crazy
Yeah.
how good he is with the stuff. Heck for it or something. 'cause-
Oh, it's heck for a hummingbird. I
Well,
thought.
guys buy the stuff and it's hard to dial in, and like you're just saying, you go over there and, oh, do this, do that, and it doesn't take you any time at all.
Yeah. I've done a lot of research on it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
everything takes time.
Yeah.
And it's another nuance. Instead of looking for holes, you're
Uh,
learning technology.
oh, and
Or
it's
you're,
grabbing my brain bad.
You're finding bait spots, or everything takes a little bit of time to get good at.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you put the whole package together, then you got something. And I'm very interested in getting that, especially if I want to guide ice trips. I ran a few guide trips last year, and we did well because I know the lake we went to. I just guided on one lake, and it's got monster fish in big numbers, so
Yeah.
pretty easy to guide on. But I really need live scope so I can branch out a little bit and have a little more fun.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely will help you on that.
Just going down the river, looking at my fish finder is pretty boring. But you get, somebody out there with a live scope or an active target or whatever, that'd be a little more engaging for them. So you were supposed to have a baseball game today,
Yeah, it got canceled.
and you got a rain out.
Yeah.
So we got to start the podcast a little
a
earlier.
little early.
Talk about kind of juggling, family life and fishing life. And
Before it wasn't an issue. If it was baseball going on, baseball would get over. It'd be about 7 o'clock at night. Hey, I'm heading to the lake. See ya.
hell yes,
Yeah.
timing is everything.
Yeah. But now I don't know, older age, not doing it quite as much. It was always a good time.
And your kids love fishing.
Oh,
Or
my
you got your oldest son.
Yeah, I have a 13-year-old and 11-year-old, and my 13-year-old is hooked. I mean, he's into it pretty hard.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah, he's
He's
fun.
good.
Yeah, I've taken him out a few times, and this is just river fishing from land, and I don't know, he's caught some walleyes that were, I'd say like 27 or so.
Holy
and
shit.
He's caught 2 in one day.
Hell yeah.
And I was taking good pictures.
Yeah, that's the last time I'm taking you.
Oh, no. The wife is like, what? Well, why didn't you keep that fish? It's like, oh, it wasn't quite big enough. Well, what do you mean? It looked huge. I'm like, well,
He's telling you.
yeah, that's like, it's got to be 28 or bigger. Then maybe I'll consider mounting it for
Yeah.
him. He does well. He's good. He's gonna get it.
That's awesome. And Andy, you're just kind of starting that journey.
Can't wait till my kids are old enough to come with me, so then I, can get out even. But I
Oh,
was
it's a good excuse.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was just actually thinking, I'm like, Bob and I went out and trying to get some bait and here and there, and came back.
How bad is your breath that just happened?
Save my beer. I think it wants me to stop talking.
Let's pause it.
Yeah,
Bobby's
yeah,
out.
yeah.
He
Go,
broke the mic.
Yeah,
again.
the mic literally fell on me.
Yeah.
So
Flatheads on crankbaits. Fact or myth?
Oh, that's a fact. I've been with him many times and seeing that happen.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
You're sitting there and set up the scenario. When is it more than likely going to happen versus not as common?
I don't know about right now. Andy's been asking me, and I don't know because I've never really tried it right now. Right now, this time of year, you're more apt to catch walleye than a flathead, I believe.
Yeah. I like springtime because, in theory, most fish run up river at spring, so a lot of them congregate around the dams because that's kind of the stopping point, and it's usually got some pretty decent water under it.
Yep.
Flathead are congregating, looking for their routes to their spawning grounds, so I would say now's a pretty decent time.
who said it was a myth?
What's that?
Who said it was a myth?
I just wanted to throw it out there, buddy.
Fair. That's fair.
Just wanted to throw it out. I've never caught one on it, but I don't fish crankbaits, so I'm not a walleye guy.
Yeah, I know when I first started fishing and seeing people throwing crankbaits in the river, I was like, what are they doing? And I
Yeah,
was like,
those things are $7 a piece.
yeah. Yeah. I caught on real fast. I'm like, you're telling me that's going to happen? Yeah.
Trial and error gets expensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, to this day, it still does.
Yeah, it's like that guy from Connecticut that's sending me all those lures for the kids. How much money is 30 crankbaits? and then he hand paints every one of them.
Oh, some
I
of
mean-
those go up towards 15, 20 bucks.
Yeah, that's
in
awesome.
the right place.
You know,
yeah.
that is freaking sweet.
Yeah.
And it was all because he read a Facebook post I put up
No,
about
that's
the
awesome.
kids tournament. So he reached out, and now he's sending 30 of them up.
Yeah.
So that's sweet.
It hurt my feelings worse, 10, 15 years ago when I wasn't making that much money. But nowadays, I'm more apt to give her a college try, and
And have success, I'm guessing, or else you wouldn't keep throwing them away.
I suppose after 3 or 4 you lose, you're like, that's enough,
Yeah.
You're talking 20, 30 bucks easy there. But no, this time of year, I might go try it this weekend and see how it pans out.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really fun when you find a spot or someone else and, and you know exactly where and how to cast it, and it bounce off the rock just perfectly. And you don't lose it.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time you're not going to lose it if you cast it right there, but it'll piss off the flathead or whatever,
Yeah.
and you hit one,
Have you got a flathead on cranks?
I caught 11 last fall, and that's when I
Oh,
started
yes.
getting into it.
Yes.
11 last fall, and that's when I started getting into it. And the smallest was 10. No, the smallest was 1 pound. Then the next smallest was 10. But out of the 11, I caught 3 on live bait, 7 on crankbaits, all between 10 and 17 pounds. And then my second biggest was 34 pounds on a jig.
Now, do you think you caught the smaller fish on the crankbaits because they don't dive as deep? And then you caught the bigger one on a jig because you're kind of bouncing bottom? Or in my simple brain, that kind of makes sense, but I don't know.
Time of year.
Time of year?
Yep, October, I'd say the middle. Was it about the middle of October?
It was very late October.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
About 20th.
Which it was pretty warm the end of last
Yep.
October.
Yep.
but that heating of the day, they're at their last go, basically, at the
Yeah.
heating of the day, I believe. And that's when they're just, basically, they're out to hit anything in front of them. I've
That makes
caught a
sense.
lot of flatheads, jigging the river for walleyes in the fall. And it's, by the end of October, the overnights are cold enough, and the water's getting cold enough, they're pretty much done.
Yeah, their body just says you're not doing this anymore.
And
It would
did
suck being cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden your body just goes. "Brrr."
30-pound flathead and a 10-pound walleye, they hit it just the same. You set that hook in 2 seconds. This
Yeah.
ain't no
By that head shake, the first time your rod goes, "Oh," you're like, oh.
But I would say all of them were in 5 to 8 foot of water. But the difference is, what we talked about last time was, it's just been so low, so it's been easier. So I think I'm figuring out this year that every year is going to be different.
It is.
It just is going to
Absolutely.
be.
And
And you got to figure it out.
Yeah, it is different every year.
But the last 3 where we've had consistently low water and fish have been trapped to a very small area, that really ups your level of success. Because I'm pretty sure I caught the same 42-pounder at least twice, if not 3 times last year. I mean, he was within 100 yards and there was 6 inches of water on both sides of him. But in that one hole, I caught several 30s, a few 40s. Never did get my 50, but it was almost cheating. If they were hungry, they had to eat. If you put a bait in the face, they were going to smack it.
What time of the year was it?
It was all the way from August to the first part of October when it was really low.
Yep.
Like I said, and then it got scary when like a scum formed on the top of the river and all current stopped. It was so low.
But time of year is huge. I mean, like, you saw me, PJ, running back into town because I was going out the second week, third week of September in the morning, throwing them out, and that's when I caught most of them. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning, and then go back to work.
Yeah, September's a good month for flathead.
That's what my dad always told me. He said a lot of guys will give up about the end of August or so, and he said September's
It's
which
just
they're not the pre-spawn weight, but he said that's first 2 weeks of September. He said are amazing.
yeah. I'd have to guess that they're 5 to 8 pounds lighter after spawn,
Yep.
roughly, judging by kind of what I've seen over the years.
Well, if you're talking a 40-pound flathead post spawn, what are you talking?
Yeah, that's your 48, 50 pound,
Yep.
pre-spawn fish. So if you want them big, catch them right now or in the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm so excited. We've got rain the last 2 days, and I've been doing rain dances. I'm just so pumped because I got I got 3 guide trips and one's an all-nighter next weekend. So that'll be this week. The week after that, I think I've got 2 guide trips. So if we can get high water during these weeks, the sky's the limit. I mean, you could have 8, 9 flathead nights. It could be crazy.
So you like high water then?
I love high water because it concentrates the fish, but they're jazzed up. Where low water concentrates the fish and they're kind of slow. A lot of creek mouths, any current breaks, they hold the big fish.
Yep.
And the big fish are gonna get to your bait because they're competing with those smaller fish. Everything's in one area.
Did you used to fish the creek mouths just from shore when you were younger?
I did.
With
Yeah.
Vern?
Yeah. Vern, our buddy, Jeremy Erickson, he's not listening. He's a boony up in Alaska somewhere right now. He probably hadn't seen technology for 15 years. Old Vern, every rod he had at least the first eye broken off, maybe the second eye broken off, because he was a little rough on shit. But we walked down to a creek mouth down south, that pavement that goes down south to that good dam. And you go around that curve and there's that creek mouth right there. So we walked in there and hell, I think we skipped school. We were like high school age, skipped school to go fishing. And that broken rod about touched his hand. It bent over so freaking hard. And he probably had the same 8-pound test that came on the reel when he bought it. But he fought that thing for 15 minutes and it finally broke the line and the pole came back and hit him in the head. And he was pissed. I threw the rod in the water. It was a normal Vern debacle.
Was he barefoot?
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
One of the best dudes I ever knew. But he was one of a kind. For sure.
Yeah.
All you gotta say, he was Vern. Alright, I get it now.
Yep. I remember one night we were south of town here and it was a full moon. The fishing was and I fell asleep on the rocks. And he come over and he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I woke up and I was just half delirious. I just woke up.
Yeah.
Fell asleep.
I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I called him somebody else's name and he's like, "What'd you call me?" It's like, dude, your rod was getting pulled into the river. And so he's like, "Whatever, weenie," hands me the rod. Reeled in and it's just a 5-pound carp.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great.
Oh, Bono. He was made for Alaska, though.
Yeah.
He really was. And my brother Rick went up and saw him it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago now, but he went up and there was a Vern sighting.
Yeah. That's good.
Which is good. Everybody needs to see a Vern once in a while so we know he's still kicking. But
Yeah, last time I saw him, he's like, "Man, those fish you catching, I use those for bait."
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first big one I caught. It was like, "That's a bait, weenie."
He's up there catching 300, 400-pound halibut. and
Yep.
shit.
Yeah. It's like, "This is good shit back here, bud."
Yeah.
Do you think his eyelets are still broke on the
Oh, probably. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. He's got 12-year-old line, just reeling in 400-pound fish like nothing. Any fishing trips coming up? What we got planned for either this summer, this winter, or if you don't have any, what's like a trip that you must have? One that you're gonna put on the list sooner rather than later.
I like going to the Missouri River.
For walleye, of course.
Yeah.
Big walleye up there.
No, just relaxing.
Yeah.
Good scenery.
I went to school up there for 3 years, almost 4 years, up in Huron, which is just south of there, probably 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And there is the James River that runs right through Huron. 2 weeks in the spring and 2 weeks in the fall. If you would cast out a white twister, if it got hit right away, you catch a walleye. If it came in 10 foot, you catch a northern. If it came in 10 more foot, you're snagging a gar. Almost every single cast. It was crazy.
James River.
Literally ran right through town and there was 30 people that fished. And you'd fish any other time of the year and you wouldn't see a single person. He just went there to slaughter the fish. And I would catch channel cat like nightly. Because nobody gave a shit about catfish up there.
Yeah.
They could give a shit less. I was having a blast.
Yeah, I like it. South Dakota pretty early, mainly time I can get
Yeah.
off work.
Yeah.
The earlier the better. I know that. I think it was a couple years ago. I hit it in late March, and man, that was a good time. I even had a kid with me. I think we probably caught like 200 walleyes just within the weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people underestimate the walleye bite, the early walleye bite.
Yeah.
Well, the Des Moines River this year was a prime example. They were just hammering them,
Yeah.
like late March, early April, and then that water came up and it just killed it.
Yeah, really fast.
But there was people catching limits in an hour. It was crazy. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I think it's like every other day I was getting something from my dad, a message. Oh, they're really hammering.
It can be as early as early February, and you get the right river flow, of course, and that's about the time of the year it start to get pissed off at ice fishing anyhow.
No
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't
And
take
late
long
ice
sometimes.
sucks. I mean, they're so finicky and conditions are, iffy at best, and it's tough.
Some of the best walleye fishing I've ever had was, I don't know, fishing off ice, casting into the river in February. It's been amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just kind of come alive, which I love spring for that reason.
Yeah.
The whole world just kind of rejuvenates. Usually the water comes up, flushes all the bad shit out of the river system. The fish kind of come back alive. They're starting to feel their fins a little bit and then stretch out. It's just an awesome time of year, for sure.
Yep.
You got any fish trips coming up?
You're just gonna really hit up the live bait with old Bob here, see what happens.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's about it, honestly.
50-pounder bust.
Yeah.
That's been my goal for 47 years, and I've been busting every year.
Disappointment.
Yeah.
And then go golf in July and hit it back up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's my plan.
July, I usually head down south and go blue cat. I think I'm gonna head west this year, actually. I usually go down to Kansas and hit some reservoirs down there and just hammer slop blue cats, but I think I'm gonna hit the river. I'm gonna go west and hit the river and
Yeah.
maybe try bumping. I've never bumped for blue cat. It's pretty much like walleye fishing, but for 80-pound fish.
Jeez.
You're in the current and you want your boat drifting downstream about half to even a quarter of what the current flow is. So you use your trolling motor to go up against current, but you're still drifting down.
Yeah.
You just cut that current speed in like a quarter.
Yep.
And then you take depending on current flow, but it could be up to like a 16-ounce weight, and you just hit the bottom, pick it up, let it drift 5 feet, it'll hit bottom, you pick it up, let it drift 5 feet, so it's just like your bait's slowly going down river, and all of a sudden your rod just goes donk. And it could be a 10, it could be an 80.
What's your biggest blue?
My biggest blue was 67. And then I got a 60 off the kayak, which was sweet.
Wow.
That'd be a hell of a fight.
It was
Did you
awesome.
think you were going to tip?
No, because it was in a reservoir.
Yeah.
So I literally reeled myself to the fish and then picked it up. When we drift for blue cats in the reservoirs, you got either 2 or 4 rods out, depending on if you have planer boards. But you're literally just rowing, and you watch your speed on your fish finder, and you want to go 0.3 to 0.8, depending on conditions, but usually right around 0.5. And then you get a bite, and your kayak literally does a 360, and you go wherever he takes you. It is so,
Walking the dog.
it is so freaking sweet. And that's why I use circle hooks, because they're hooked up instantly. You wait till he gets tired, and you reel him straight up, take a picture, throw him back. It's pretty cool.
Imagine fishing out a kayak where we were up in Wisconsin on that river.
Which one?
The one that we were actually getting into walleye pretty good.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd have been insane.
No.
That is some heavy flow. Knowing that there's fish in that, I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I went up Wisconsin, I don't remember if it was last summer or the year before, and met up with that Scott Monroe from Jurassic Plastics, and we fished with him. He caught his first on-purpose flathead because he's a lure guy. He runs bass tournaments, fishes bass tournaments. He catches some walleye. But we go out there, and that would be a good kayak river because it's nice, slow, windy. They've got some like tour boats that just kind of take in the views. It's that type of area. So that'd be all right in that area. But
The one that we were on, man, that thing.
It was running.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
if you just go in idle speed, you probably go about 4 mile an hour.
oh
Yeah.
wow.
I mean, it's good. It's cooking.
Yep.
Yeah.
But pretty good depth. You didn't have to worry about anything.
No.
I thought they should have called it the Wood River.
Yeah.
Because you're casting towards shore to get out of the main channel.
Yeah.
And I started casting upstream with, like I said, the 10 jig instead
Yeah.
of the lead. And I just popped that thing and let it ride down, and they would just destroy it.
No shit.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Totally different than I usually do, and whatever. It's
It worked.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, Yeah, it was a good time. We had a few good days.
I don't have any trips planned.
No trips?
Nope, just wait for the cool weather.
You,
We got Flathead.
Cool.
One of the most amazing things I ever saw was you got a guide. Walleye Bob got a guide.
Yep, down in Arkansas.
You got married. Was that your honeymoon
Yep,
type trip?
yep.
I figured it was, but I looked on Facebook. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me.
I actually did a lot better without the guide at that.
Yeah, I can see that, but
It was kind of weird though that we were catching these males. You reel them in and they're just shooting their milk, you know. And he's like, "Oh, it's gonna be a couple weeks before the females show up, and the water temp's like 60-some degrees." I'm like, "Dude, no."
you're wrong.
Everything that I have ever been told or
Yeah.
read that says no. The male should have already been here because they start, you know, generally the mid-40s is kind of the key for them. And, when you're not even touching them and there's milk coming out of them.
It's time.
When you say Walleye Bob, I don't think this guy has gone fishing somewhere and not caught a walleye.
Out of my bathtub last
Yeah.
time he was here.
It's very
I had a guy that I told about a river around here, and he's like, "There's just carp and catfish in there." I'm like, "No, wait till October, I'll take you down there," and we're fishing. He's like, "Caught a couple." "Oh, yeah." And he's like, "Did you catch another one?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I hate you." He's like, "You catch another one?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You effing suck."
Yeah.
You catch another one? He's like, I give up.
Yeah.
They just gravitate to you.
Yeah.
Well, what he needed to do is just stop his bitching and watch what the hell you're doing.
He's
Yeah.
learned. He's
Yeah.
learned.
Yeah, and that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
Because I've
Oh,
never
shit.
been walleye fishing at a consistent rate.
Yeah, over all these years when I first started fishing, I've definitely watched what Bob was doing,
Yeah.
for sure. And I know there's a few things I probably picked up a little bit on my own, but yeah, shit, Bob was on
Success breeds success.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
If you can replicate a successful situation, you're gonna have success.
it. Yeah.
But it's crazy because I've seen like videos of different pretty famous walleye guys on YouTube, et cetera, and none of them can throw a jig like Bob.
Yeah.
The finesse he has on that thing coming back,
Well, it's a lot of one
you
hand
can't
and pumps.
duplicate it. You can't
A lot of
duplicate it.
practice.
Like I'm out
It's
there, and it's
year-round
just like
training is what it takes.
to compare. It's like I just threw on some heels and I'm trying to walk. I mean,
Yeah.
it don't work.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work.
The numb hand. The stranger.
Real
I remember-
stranger gets them every time.
No, it's if I spend as much time on like bettering my career or learning something that makes me money.
You wouldn't be hanging out with us peasants.
Not saying that, but I might have a bigger bank account, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
A lot less smiles along the way too, though.
Sure, no, I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, I know I've had a lot of good times with Bob, so.
If you could only fish for 1 month throughout the whole year, what you fishing for, what month you choosing, and why?
You get an option on that?
Whatever you want. You got 12 options, actually.
Well, I'm just thinking because it kind of depends on the weather and the pattern.
We'll talk through it. We got
Yeah.
time.
Because
We got beer, shit.
March Madness is not basketball, it's walleye. So
Yeah.
March, it could be a really good time, but everything has to fall into place to make it work.
Stars have to align.
Yes, and it just seems like it hasn't happened, like hammered down in quite, I don't know how many years now. I mean, hammered down, I mean, you're catching them 2-3 weeks in a row, and this is like 10 to 20 fish a day.
And you go a day before that, and you
Yeah.
might catch one. You
Yeah.
go the day after they shut off,
And then
you
it's just
might
on.
catch one.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I don't like a certain river to the east. So
Yeah,
if it's
I mean,
right,
if it's on, it's on.
you know. I mean,
Yeah.
you go down there and if it's just right, like he's trying to say here, and
Yeah.
there's no questions.
It's just so fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a blast.
I need to get into it, but I don't know. I just haven't.
It's different, but March is a hell of a time. Everything has to align though.
The only thing you have to do is put in work to get to where the other people are
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yes.
Because
That's
since COVID, I know this sounds like a broken record, but there's so many people out doing the stuff because they got
Yeah.
all that time to figure out what they're gonna do when they don't have to go to work. And fishing
Yeah.
was a big part of that.
Huge. License sales just skyrocket.
Yeah, it did.
Not trying to be a jerk, but there's a lot of people in the way nowadays.
Yes, there is.
And they deserve every right to it.
They
as
do.
much
Yeah.
as any of
Well,
us.
Just not the same places I fish.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of there.
I'd say that probably makes us a lot better fishermen because we're getting off the beaten path.
Right.
I mean, we're in areas where people wouldn't even dream of being in.
And that's why I got the boat I got. Because I can get
Yeah.
where 90% of the population can't.
Yeah.
Because that's where the big fish are going to
Yeah.
be.
So remember, my story was I didn't catch any flathead, and I fell in love with them until last fall, and I was catching channel cat all last spring, and just thought
You
I was
were.
figuring it out, and like, you know, growing
But
up,
you were
I
kind
couldn't
of going
catch-
the same spot every time.
Yeah, but it
Early.
worked, and
Yeah.
growing up, I couldn't catch anything, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I kind of got this figured out. Like, I'm not the worst. Not the best, but the worst. You know, but then figuring out the fall flathead was a lot of fun for me. So, I mean,
But you
if
put a
I-
lot of time in, too.
if I gotta give an answer, I gotta say the fall flathead. But I know I'm really looking forward to this, you know, this June coming up
Yeah.
here and figuring that out.
Yeah.
So, I hope I have a lot
God, I
of time
hope
to-
we get some water.
I
God, I
know.
hope we get some water.
We got a good start. Maybe it'll keep going.
I mean, if you corner me and put me in a month, I'm gonna say September for the flathead.
Yeah.
But I don't. But I know I don't know the spring.
What do you think, Bob? You going early or you going late?
Second half of February and last half of November.
Right when everybody else either thinks, oh, I don't have a shot yet,
Yeah.
or it's over.
Right.
Bob's
Too
out there
damn
just
cold.
stroking them.
A lot of guys are deer hunting by then. I mean, I've seen it lights out the first week of December before the river chumps up too. The colder that water gets, the more crazy they are. And it's all your presentation too. You got to hang it in front of their face at that time, but they're gangbusters too. So
Like up in South Dakota, we just always threw a 1/4 ounce jig head with a white twister and frickin' catch them every third cast. Then you come down here where you got to learn how to fish, and I'm like, I got another snag.
early June, he had a flathead on that got off. God damn it, he rebaits, throws it out there, it slaps the water, and that thing, I mean, it didn't even hit bottom. And it must have been the same fish. 'Cause
You
he cast it.
pissed that. Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Look, I'm like, dude, we're flathead fishing. We're
Yeah,
not
no
fucking
shit.
bass fishing.
Top water flatheads.
That's not how this works, man.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing?
How cool would that be?
Yeah.
Well, you see those videos of those Wells catfish that they catch on top waters. They're
That's
like,
insane.
you know, those Wells catfish are like 8 feet long and weigh 300 pounds.
Yeah.
They catch them on top waters. That'd be fucking nuts.
What's crazy is my fucking 13-year-old knows like every single fucking fish in this world. It just blows my mind.
He got the bug,
Yeah,
man.
he's
Taught him
horrible.
well.
Yeah, definitely helped. Old Bob was a big part of that too, because catching walleyes and shit.
Yeah.
I think the first walleye that he actually landed by himself was 24 inches.
I mean, you're like,
Yeah.
He lands that and he's like, oh, this thing's a monster, you know. And
Yeah.
here comes Jeff Grow and Joe Dolan. And TJ's like, don't say nothing.
Yeah, don't
He's
say
like,
anything.
hey guys, you want to see what I caught? Pulls up this.
Yeah.
they camped out there for a week and a half straight.
The picture we got, I would say, I don't know how old he was. He probably had been like 7 or 8 at the time.
Yeah.
And he was holding it out like this.
So it looked like an
Looks
8
like it.
incher.
Yeah.
I think I had it as a screensaver for like in years. And my
That's
wife was like,
awesome.
you still have that one? I'm like, damn right.
Then he's telling me and PJ's like, yeah, I caught the biggest fish. You guys ain't even gonna come close to that. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go down to the water plant here right at dark.
Yeah.
Canuck one, I don't know, 26 inch or something.
Yeah. Oh,
Brought it back, Colin's like, come on.
Not
Yeah,
many
it was
people
just-
like you, do they?
even an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He learned
that was
well.
awesome.
Yeah.
No, he's learning good though.
That's
'Cause,
awesome.
Yeah.
No, he'll be a better fisherman than both of us.
Yeah, I hope that happens.
You always hope so. You know, you
Yeah.
always hope that the next generation, you know, picks up what we know and runs with it.
Well,
Yeah.
especially these days with all the other clutter. You
Oh,
know,
he's
the
got-
noise.
Yeah.
He's got a lot
Video
of shit
games
going
and
on
social
too.
media and shit.
Yeah.
Well, we're down at Lake Panorama, and we're 10 foot apart. Colin's just like, "Floop, floop." And I'm just like, what the? Like, I can.
He's
One every 10 minutes?
Taking
Yeah.
scissors
No,
to his
seriously, I'm
line.
not kidding you. Like,
Yeah, he's a little shit, but he loves being competitive.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I
felt him flipping me off.
Yeah, he may have. Yeah, it may have. But I try to teach him. I fucking love it when other people, if it's not me, if someone else is catching a big fish,
Yep.
yes, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're all here to do, and
Yes.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But have fun doing it. So as
Yeah,
long as
don't
he's
gloat, don't be a dickhead.
Not, yeah, as long as he's
Just-
not being a dickhead.
Yeah.
But
But I'm the same way. You know, people get butthurt about some of the stuff I video or, post or whatever.
Seriously?
And I'm like, if you caught the fish I just caught, I'd be so happy for you. I'd be like,
Yes.
good fish, dude.
yeah,
And I'd go to the next hole and I'd try to replicate it.
yeah.
There's no reason to get butthurt over somebody else's success.
How many times you go out fishing with someone and they catch a 28-inch walleye? This guy like every week.
Like,
Like,
it's all right.
no,
Yeah,
close.
it's not bad.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, good picture. Put her back. Make sure she lives.
That's Jim.
Yeah.
I got him the last 4 years.
No.
He's a good guy.
Well, we went ice fishing and I caught 2 nice ones, and Bob was way more excited for me than I was.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
I don't know how many
I wasn't
come
even
up.
around you,
Even on
and
the
I thought you
picture.
killed it. I was just
I
like,
knew
he
what the
just
fuck
had
they
the
were.
day of his
Yeah.
life. What you did that day was amazing.
So Andy did really good. He caught like a 5-pounder and a 3-4 pounder. But
Within
the reports,
how long from each other though? Like 3 hours, if that.
Catching
Yeah.
South Dakota fish in 3 foot of water.
I'd say
Like 3.
most of the fish I catch in South Dakota is like 15, 15, 15, 15, 15.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an 18, 18, 15,
Yeah.
15, 15, 26.
but like the reports coming back, as soon as the ice out on that place, best time to get up there.
That was
Yeah.
insane.
Those were nice fish, but they're not
Yeah.
even close to as big as what the reports.
What's in there?
Yeah. Like, and
Did
there's
you
so
see
many
some of those pictures that people are pulling out right at ice out? The musky walleye.
off the shore?
Huge.
Cast 'em.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Dude, I'd never seen, I went up there, I guess I went land fishing with a kid. It was north wind and it was coming right in our face. And I was like, oh, it's cold as shit. The kid's like, oh, I'm really cold. And he cast, he's like, oh, I just missed one. I'm like, really? Are you sure? And I'm sitting there fishing. He's like, oh, I got one. I'm like, no shit. And I go over, that's a nice walleye. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good eater. Put it on the stringer. He kept, oh, I got another one. I'm like, what the fuck?
Go to the car now.
We caught like 6 walleyes within like 20 minutes, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And he was like, I'm so cold, I can't fish anymore. I'm like, I'll start the car.
Yeah,
for
go
you."
ahead.
I'm like, yeah. And I think I ended up catching one about 24, but that was like, I don't know how far after ice was out, but it was.
Well, you just had to
amazing.
shake to get
Yeah, it was
the
cold.
jig right.
Yeah. No, I didn't have the shake. I love cold weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely fish in it, but there is a time where it's cold when
Yeah.
your line is freezing.
Truthfully, I can't wait till the day where I never get cold. Because I'm going to go south. I'm going to end up in Alabama or Tennessee. Because at any time, you can catch a 100-pound blue cat or an 80-pound flathead. And you can't do that here.
Yep.
So I'm going to go to the land where you can do that. Where my buddy Brian Kinsey's just the opposite. He's going to go up north as soon as he gets a chance. Because he likes, South Dakota ice fishing.
Oh, I love that. If I could get that kind of fishery around here, I'm stuck here. And if it's on land and not fishing out of the boat, I'm fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, I just have the love that boat, but it's just another option to get into fish.
It's a
That's all
tool.
it is, yeah.
That's a tool.
Yeah.
That's why I got a boat. That's why I got a kayak. That's why I got feet.
Yep.
Whatever it takes to get to the fish, that's
Yeah.
all I'm going to do.
And if it
I don't
comes,
care.
yeah, like this fall, fishing's great out of the Des Moines River, fishing out of Bob's 16-footer. I love it.
Yep.
It's like, what was
yeah.
it, last year?
No, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
It's so hard to get it
Yeah.
just right.
When we end the podcast, we always end it on what we call the last cast. So the last cast is anything that you want to talk about, revisit. Maybe you didn't get your point across, or maybe you want to look at a different side of a scenario, or if you want to give anybody a shout out or just another topic that we haven't touched yet. So Andy, you are the veteran. What you got lined up for last cast, buddy?
I just want to thank these guys and you, Ryan, for having me on again, honestly.
It's
No-
never a bad time.
I mean, you guys have taught me a lot. I've asked a lot of questions, and thanks for being patient with me. And I appreciate that a lot.
I have a daughter who has ADHD, and she's 11. And you guys are about peg for peg on the question asking.
I admit it. I'm fair.
Thanks,
That's
dude.
fair.
That was awesome.
You summed it
But-
up.
I kind of tell people about my daughter, which my trapping partner, Jay Goffner, loves having her in the truck because Jay never shuts up. And she asks, if she played 20 questions, she would ask 20 questions about the game, 20 questions before it started.
That's awesome.
But it's fun because I like learning, and
Yeah.
especially something I'm passionate about or getting back into. I'm ready to go, so hey, when I want to go, I don't need to ask you guys jack. You know, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
And what I like about it is
Thanks.
you're passionate
Appreciate
about it. You know, I'm more than happy to help somebody who is passionate about it and devotes himself to it. Like, you put your time in. It's not someone who just fishes once in a while or takes the information that you give them and blows it out of the water, or, you know, tells a bunch of people about it. You take it and you process it and you put it to work. So that's why I appreciate it about it.
thank you. Well, in the last cast, I was gonna say was putting time in. I'm pretty pissed off because my sunfish, whatever you want to call him, spot, it got killed off this winter. So I gotta
That's
figure
nice.
something else out. And
Oh, really?
I got back late, and my wife's like, "What were you doing?" I'm like, "I was trying to catch bait. I can't find them. I'm sorry. Like, it took 10 minutes. Now it's take 2 hours. So
Bait spots will kill a man's self-esteem.
figuring that out.
You think you got it hammered out, like especially bullhead spots. You go 3 years in a row and they're prime, they're perfect, they bite day and night. You go the next year and you can't find one. It sucks.
So
I feel your pain.
yeah. Last cast is thank you, and got to figure something else out on that end.
I got
We'll figure it out.
got some info for you. We'll get you on them. PJ, got anything you want to talk about? No, you don't talk now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of impressed, you guys. You know, I didn't know what to expect coming in because you both are kind of reserved. I mean, we know each other pretty well, and
Yeah.
we think a lot alike outdoors wise. So I knew we'd get along, but I just didn't know if you guys would like clam up. No, it's been going about as well as I could have thought. Because I wasn't sure how it'd go.
Been a good time.
Bobby, you got anything you want to leave the viewers on?
Last cast for me would be to catch a pre-spawn flathead this year. Because those, I've caught my majority August or after.
Yeah. So you're missing out on that 5 to 8 pounds of weight.
Yep.
And you know, when it gets to September, they start getting pissed again. But when you throw a big bullhead in front of them in June, when it's really close to prime time, you talk about an angry fish. They want to hurt that bullhead. It's not like, oh, I'm going to eat it. They want to hurt him first, and then they'll eat it.
I'm ready.
So, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I'll get the kid on that. He's ready.
If it wasn't for guiding, I'd fish a hell of a lot more around here because there are some good spots around here. But there's not good guiding spots. Because one, you can't get your boat in. And
Yeah.
two, there's some spots that I really hold dear because I've fished them for so long that I don't really want to share them. Because they're just kind of, they're mine.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
I know we all fish them.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I've got those memories there that are just sacred with my family and my friends. And I drive an hour and a half to run a guide trip because one, there's a lot deeper water that I can actually get my boat in and safely boat. And two, I'm not as attached to that area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you got to walk them, and there's mountains of poison ivy. So
There is that. There is that. So I just want to thank you guys. Like I said, this has been a podcast a long time, months in the making. Either something came up or, you know, we had to change dates a few times or we just missed opportunities. So thank you guys. I had a blast. I really did. It's been a long time since, you know, like I said, we ice fished a few times together. We used to fish once in a great while when we were younger, but we kind of lost track because our lives kind of forked off. You know, I just kind of got in touch with you a year and a half ago. So it was a great time. You know, just sitting around talking fishing. We all love it. We all have kind of different aspects to it that we excel at. So just bringing minds together that think a little bit differently on the same subject is a good time. So if you're still watching, you don't have much else better to do, but I appreciate it. So next week, I've got hopefully the kids video coming up from this week's tournament. So hopefully I'll put out a kids video. If not, I got a couple videos stored up. So we got some good ones coming your way. Please give Tasker Guide Service a like and subscribe. and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.